Welcome, and thank you for your interest in the International Wizard of Oz Club. I joined the Oz Club in 1971 and lost no time becoming involved. Today, I'm sharing a bit of history, as well as some milestones and personal memories to give you a better idea of where we come from, who we are, and what we do. When L. Frank Baum died in 1919, his publishers received a letter from Jack Snow, offering to step into the author's shoes as the next writer of the popular Oz books. Riley and Lee turned down the offer, assuming that a 12-year-old boy wasn't quite up to the job. Snow never lost interest, however, and by 1946, his first Oz book, The Magical Mimics of Oz, rolled off the presses at Riley and Lee. As the new Royal Historian of Oz, fan letters arrived at the publishers that were forwarded to Jack. His address book of Oz readers quickly grew. One letter writer who went on to personally befriend Snow was Justin Schiller. Like Jack had been all those years ago, Justin was only 12 when, in 1956, he took Baum bibliographers by surprise. He had contacted the Columbia University libraries, offering to loan material from his personal collection to their Baum Centenary exhibit. It was soon clear to the curator that despite his age, Justin's own collection included treasures so rare they justified an addendum to the program. When Snow died the following year, young Justin was at a crossroads. He had lost his friend and connection to Oz. It was a void he wanted to fill. Fortunately for us, that address book of Jack's made its way to Fred Meyer, a school teacher and avid Oz fan in Michigan. Both Fred and another Oz fan, the celebrated author Martin Gardner, had contacted Justin directly in the wake of the Columbia exhibit. With the encouragement of these two adult members, Justin wrote all the Oz fans in Snow's address book, as well as those who'd contacted him through the Columbia Library, inviting them to form the Wizard of Oz Fan Club. In addition to Meyer and Gardner, Justin's first letter generated 13 responses, and so in 1957 the 16-member Oz Fan Club was formed, with Frank J. Baum as honorary president, Martin Gardner as chairman of the board, and Fred Meyer as royal historian. In exchange for $1 dues, members would receive a 4-page newsletter Justin assembled, the Baum Bugle. Just a few mimeograph sheets at first, but soon they were jazzing it up with the occasional crossword puzzle. Word spread, and by the end of the year, the group had 43 members. Soon, our name was changed to the International Wizard of Oz Club, and in 1959, Harry Neal Baum was named honorary president. He quickly proved to be more than a figurehead. Harry and his wife Brenda opened their Indiana resort in September of 1960 for the club's first Ozmopolitan Convention. An annual tradition followed in which members gathered at the Baum's lakeside retreat for a weekend of fun and fellowship. 1964 was the year we were incorporated as a not-for-profit organization, and it's when our West Coast members began meeting as the Winky Conference. Southern and East Coast members followed suit, introducing Quadling and Munchkin regional meetings in 1966. Our early conventions were marked by exhibits of original Oz artwork, auctions, entertainment like puppet shows, and special guests including Oz authors and members of the Baum and Neal families. Fred Meyer remained the club's secretary for decades, writing an endless stream of letters to every member. He traveled around the country, attending events to meet everyone in person, hosted small parties near his home, encouraged members to exhibit, to write. He kept all the print overrun stock in his home to mail off at the drop of a hat to anyone who showed interest in Oz. He funded special guests at our conventions. He just did everything. And his correspondence files were dotted with mail from famous Oz fans. Riley and Lee artist Dick Martin was another active volunteer, putting his personal energies into our success. It was thanks to Dick that the covers of the Baum Bugle stepped up from a simple typed title to including Ozzy art. A 1962 issue of the American Book Collector called considerable attention to our club. Across the board, members worked in the marketplace, introducing Oz research and new fiction, mounting exhibitions and events, and otherwise promoting the club to the general public. David Green and Dick Martin collaborated to write the Oz Scrapbook, a virtual celebration of all the fun things they were finding to collect. Our founder and first members were primarily collectors and readers of the published Oz series. But that tight focus didn't last long. John Fricke's 1969 article in Checklists for the Bomb Bugle helped expand Oz Club interests to include the 1939 MGM musical and collectibles honoring the classic film. With that article, the teenaged author had published the first full study ever done anywhere by anyone on the making, promoting, and merchandising of the MGM film. When Martin Gardner was asked by his publisher to annotate The Wizard of Oz as he'd done Alice in Wonderland, he didn't have the time available. He recommended Oz Club member Michael Patrick Hearn for the job. A college student who was passionate about both Oz and Bomb, Hearn did an outstanding job, and the book, published in 1972, made him the youngest author at the time to appear on the New York Times bestsellers list. The Oz Club itself had become a publisher, if a modest one, in 1962, with Dick Martin's detailed, whimsical maps of Oz and its surrounding countries. Relying on their own creative and financial resources, early club members soon produced slim, soft-cover publications such as the Unexplored Territory essay collection and Bomb Bugle compilations that made past issue content available to new members. In 1969, a more substantial book, Animal Fairy Tales, added a title of Bomb's own fiction to our growing library. Then Ruth Thompson agreed to our publication of her original Oz manuscript, Yankee in Oz, our first foray into original Oz fiction. In addition, the club's signature book, Bibliographia Oziana, described the first and early editions of all the Oz books, a reference for book collectors that was a first of its kind in 1976 and remains invaluable today. The content is based on checklists that had appeared in the Bomb Bugle. In subsequent years, we've published selected classic Oz books, as well as newly commissioned Oz titles by Riley and Lee authors, and our own discovered royal historian, Gina Wickwar. We had launched a writing contest to honor the centennial of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. The winning manuscript, Wickwar's The Hidden Prince, was published in 2000. It was followed in 2007 with her Toto of Oz. Both books are beautifully illustrated by Anna Maria Kuhl, and have been produced in both reading editions and limited editions, featuring slipcases and exclusive details. In 1971, we introduced Oziana, an annual collection of our members' short fiction and illustration work. We offer annual contests for fiction, illustration, and research to help find suitable stories for it. 50 years later, it's still growing strong. To mark that 50-year milestone in 2021, we have writers and fans reading stories from past issues. We upload one every Saturday to our YouTube channel. Another annual project that's been around for some time is our club calendar. We don't sell it, however. It's produced as a thank you gift for our sustaining Patriot and Wizard Circle members. The theme changes every year, and the dates are loaded with timely trivia tied to that theme. I mentioned that Michael Patrick Hearn's annotated Wizard of Oz was published in 1972. There were a couple other milestones about that time. The Wiz took over Broadway in 1975 and took home 7 Tony Awards, attracting interest in the original story on which the show was based and considerable interest in Oz from theater historians. 3 years later, the lifetime collection of our founder, Justin Schiller, was sold at auction by Swan Galleries. It was the first such sale of its kind, with a 144-page catalog that created a lasting record of this superb collection and increased interest among book collectors in rare Oz and Bomb books. The Wiz remained a wow. There have been multiple stage revivals, including a live television production. One of my favorite Bomb Bugle articles was written by Andre de Shields about his experience as the original Broadway Wiz. And once rare book dealers saw the potential in Oz, more collectors were attracted. In addition to our own Bibliographia Oziana, collectors today can use Oz Club member Paul Bienvenue's privately printed The Book Collector's Guide to L. Frank Baum and Oz that was published in 2009. And member Bill Thompson's 400-page Bibliographia Baumiana, published by the club in 2017. It explores the publication details of all the non-Oz books by L. Frank Baum. Bill is currently the club's auctioneer, taking over the task from Paul. These two men were not only well-versed in these books, but they knew where to find them. The collections of many club members were opened for their research. And to jump back to the 70s, the 1939 MGM film was fast becoming an American classic and the public was beginning to honor this popular film with events like Wizard of Oz Day in Los Angeles. At that one, club member and Oz collector Warren Hollister helped set a precedent. For the next 50 years, club members worked to support public events as presenters and exhibitors. A highlight in club history respecting the MGM film arrived in 1979 when Margaret Hamilton was the guest of honor at the Osmopolitan and Munchkin conventions. 10 years later, it was Munchkin Meinhardt Robbie and his wife Marie getting this celebrity welcome. Another 15 years later, and Wicked author Gregory Maguire was with us. But I'm getting ahead of my story. In 1981, club member Jean Nelson started a weekend festival to attract fans of the film to her hometown. An unqualified success, it remained the largest annual event of its kind for 30 years, attracting tens of thousands of Oz fans annually to Chesterton, Indiana. It also helped launch a new experience for Oz fans, public festivals funded by the community. Today there are a dozen of them across the East and Midwest. The 1985 television documentary, The Whimsical World of Oz, featured film clips and celebrity interviews that included IWOC members, Dr. Robert Baum, Ozma Baum Manteel, author Ray Bradbury, Justin Schiller, and Warren Hollister. 3 members, John Fricke, Jay Scarfone, and William Stillman, co-authored a 50-year pictorial history of the MGM film in 1989. Media events surrounding that book's release and the film's anniversary resulted in high profiles for all 3 men. Their subsequent books and other ongoing Oz projects have provided Oz fans with a remarkable body of research and entertainment, building the base of Oz fans and bringing a steady flow of members to our door. Meanwhile, in 1986, a much quieter effort by Oz Club member Stan Barker corrected an historic slight. W.W. Denslow had been buried in an unmarked grave. Stan's efforts helped to change that. Mike Gessel championed another headstone more recently when the Oz Club helped provide a marker for Jack Stone's previously unmarked grave. A new Baum biography by the mother-daughter team of Jean Shirley and Angelica Shirley Carpenter, L. Frank Baum, Royal Historian of Oz, introduced Carpenter to the Oz Club in the 1990s. Rapidly recruited to volunteer, Angelica went on to serve 2 terms as club president, to champion needed changes in our convention program, and to chair an extraordinary convention for us in 2010. Not one to rest on her laurels as a past president, she's written both a remarkable biography and a fun picture book about Baum's famous mother-in-law, Matilda Joslyn Gage. She succeeded Peter Hanff as president, who cannot be overlooked in any discussion of Oz Club history. Peter has spent nearly half of that history in the office of president. He curates the club's archives and research collection today and was instrumental in keeping the Winky Convention going strong. No surprise, since the first of those gatherings was held in his parents' home while he was still a teenager. Peter has written and researched extensively on bibliographia and other topics for the club and is a tremendous resource for us. Invariably, when people want to know something about the club's past, the fastest way to get the answer is to ask Pete. In 1989, a commercial publisher also released members Jay Scarfone and William Stillman's The Wizard of Oz Collector's Treasury, the first extensive reference work of Oz memorabilia and collectibles. The first copy was presented at an International Wizard of Oz Club convention to dedicatee and club secretary Fred Meyer, whose anonymous contributions to the volume from his own impressive Oz collection were extensive. The following year, the club published Rachel Cosgrove Pay's The Wicked Witch of Oz, illustrated by club member Eric Schanauer. Long an illustrator for other club projects, Eric's Oz work continued outside the club with a series of successful graphic novels. Today, he's respected for his research as well as his art, and an awful lot of us refer to him with John R. Neal's honorary title, Royal Illustrator of Oz. By the time the club had been around 40 years, Oz collecting had come to be redefined. While Baum and Oz books were still desirable, so were early dolls and ephemera produced by the publisher. Merchandise sold in 1939 to promote the MGM film was selling for eye-popping prices. The Wizard of Oz on Ice opened in 1995. Not only was there a worldwide tour, there were loads of merchandise for collectors. And that new generation of Oz collector was joining the club. These collectors wanted everything. It was hard to think our members' interests could be more diverse. The year 2000 marked the publication centennial of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz and major steps forward for the Oz Club. We established an office space in San Francisco to house our archives and collections. That was also the year we published the new Oz novel I mentioned earlier, Gina Wickwar's The Hidden Prince of Oz. Years in the planning, the club also hosted a 4-day centennial event on the campus of Indiana University in Bloomington. More than 50 speakers provided core content focused on biographical information, literary comparisons, stage and screen performances, collectibles, and the people, places, and plots of the Oz books. There were munchkins and storytellers, show-and-tell sessions and costume contests, exhibitions of rare Oz treasures, and a gallery of original Oz artwork. We had games to play and a fundraising auction that enriched many collections, campus and community activities tied to the theme for the public. A Campus Oz Film Festival and community production of Patrick Shanahan's original play, Oz, were complemented by Oz-themed activities at local malls, museums, bookstores, and even the farmers market. The Wizard's Ascent by Hot Air Balloon became the lead to a story about the club's weekend on the front page of the Sunday New York Times. It was a once-in-a-lifetime event. Centennial was 21 years ago as I record this. The club? We continue filling 3 annual issues of the Bomb Bugle with informative feature stories, led by our current editor-in-chief, Sarah Krautzer. And yes, that is Stephen Schwartz on the cover. A member who knows him as a friend used a long car ride they shared to provide us with an exclusive interview. An archivist at Disney, who's a club member, made last year's Return to Oz-focused issue a dream come true. Since we try to fit content of every issue into 48 pages, we overflow occasionally to our website. Even with the 2-part article I wrote about Oz puppetry, I couldn't even touch the Muppets Wizard of Oz connections or international Oz puppetry, so off that went to ozclub.org. Included with the Bugle mailings, members find a newspaper for Oz designed for our younger members. Pay no attention to Nick Campbell up there in the corner, because the Oz Gazette is actually edited by the Scarecrow himself, arriving at our printer directly from the Emerald City. Mailings also include original cut and assembled paper projects created by our own David Kelleher. Our club collection of rare material and original artwork also has grown through the years. The club itself and several members were among those who loaned pieces to the Eric Carle Museum of Picture Book Art for an Oz exhibition honoring the 150th anniversaries of both L. Frank Baum and W. W. Dinslow's births. Michael Patrick Hearn curated the collection and served as keynote speaker at an event we co-hosted there. We included pieces from our collection in our 2010 convention in Fresno, California, and we loaned artwork to the El Segundo Museum of Art's exhibition in California over the summer of 2018. Brady Schwend, presenting there on the right, is working on a reference book, The Lost Art of Oz, and gave a presentation at the El Segundo Museum. In addition to writers of reference books and traditional Oz books, we have other members, like Paul Schneider. He writes modern action-adventure novels about times when Oz magic finds its way into our world. In addition to writing all these fiction and nonfiction books, other members express their love of Oz in entirely different ways, like by appearing in character on stage and in public events. They're an important part of who we are. Kurt Raymond is nationally known for his impersonation of Margaret Hamilton as the Wicked Witch of the West. And Sean Barrett, with the Land of Oz theme park in North Carolina, appeared as his childhood cosplay favorite, the Scarecrow, for many years during the park's annual Autumn in Oz event. Today, he's their creative director, casting and directing performances, planning events, and designing exclusive merchandise. And he directed and produced the wonderful short film, The Oz Project. And all artists aren't limited to paper. Bill Campbell has created fantastic 3-dimensional pieces, including a working toy theater of the 1902 Wizard of Oz musical extravaganza. With his husband Irwin Terry, they have Century Studios in Minneapolis, where they create extraordinary stained glass pieces, including the occasional Oz window that makes his home the envy of us all. Imagine taking this black and white artwork of polychrome being lifted up into the rainbow and being able to turn it into this. Anthony Whitaker's original adaptations of Bomb material had been staged in Chicago, including an original production of The Land of Oz that was successful enough to be held over to meet popular demand. He also performs live music, writes his own songs, and recently started a podcast. We have Bomb family members in our membership, and people like Sally Wagner, who study the family. Sally formed a foundation that turned the home of Maud Bomb's mother, Matilda Joslyn Gage, into a museum. A leader of the 19th century suffrage movement in the U.S. and an outspoken voice for social justice and women's rights, Gage's home is now a center for modern study. Sergei Sukhanov leads a Friends of the Emerald City Club in Moscow for young readers of his original Russian Oz fiction, all created as sequels to the Oz books of Alexander Volkov that were first written in 1939. Film critic Ryan Jay brings his expertise in on-camera interviews to our club, including hosting a talk show on our YouTube channel. Although sometimes in the midst of all of these celebrated people I've met through the Oz Club, what stands out are the tattoos. Popular culture is deeply embedded in the International Wizard of Oz Club. Gary Benner just had surgery on that knee, but assures me the wizard's head survived. And we aren't just individuals. We have 3 established Oz museums as members of the club, as well as a number of libraries, including the Library of Congress. I hope you see that the club today attracts all kinds of Oz fans. Individually, we may have started with Wicked or W.W. Dinslow, rare ephemera from the first Wizard of Oz stage musical, or Oz toys, ornaments, housewares, and collectibles. We have Return to Oz fans, and people, including me, who'd make a week-long trip out of seeing the Munchkins get a star on Hollywood Boulevard. Across our interests, the Yellow Brick Road still leads to conventions. Our West Coast Winky gathering morphed into an independent annual event, OzCon International. We cheer them on. With the emergence of public Oz festivals in the East and Midwest, our Munchkin and Ozmopolitan conventions were replaced in 2008 with a single gathering that draws our members to different sites of interest to Oz fans. We visited historic sites like the Matilda Joslyn Gage house, where Sally Wagner even let us head upstairs to see where Susan B. Anthony had etched her name into a window pane. We lined up on the sidewalk to have our pictures taken on Ruth Plummy Thompson's porch. We milled around the Macatawa Yacht Club like we owned the place, and we raise our flag at every opportunity. We followed the Yellow Brick Road in North Carolina, and we paraded through the streets of Chittenango, New York, where L. Frank Baum was born. We've gone into back rooms to see library collections, and in Macatawa, descendants of the family that owned Baum's The Sign of the Goose summer cottage after the Baum family moved to California, let us see the family archive of clippings and photos after we hiked the ground where the cottage once stood. We've been entertained with musicals and dance and staged a fashion show of Dorothy's, and we have seen some serious Oz displays. We revisited the castle where our conventions were once held and have toured Oz sites on trolleys and buses and boats. In private home parties and library receptions and ballroom banquets, we cheer and toast our faithful volunteers, our academic presenters, our talented actors, our celebrity guests, and winners of the L. Frank Baum Memorial Award, an honor presented annually since 1961 when it was first presented to Dick Martin. These 2 winners are Bill Beam on the top left from 2019, who manages all of our membership record keeping and corresponds with our members, and Bill Thompson below in the flowered shirt. Bill I mentioned earlier as the author of Bibliographia Baumiana and our auctioneer. He too puts in unbelievable amounts of time helping our club. And we cheer people pelting the Gnome King with eggs. Members who attend and enjoy public Oz events often plan on-site get-togethers or pitch in to help staff an Oz Club booth. So how to sum us up? Our members cross all areas of Ozian interests. We are still an all-volunteer, not-for-profit educational organization, producing the Baum Bugle, our Journal of Oz, creating both in-person and now online events. We run ozclub.org, which includes online shopping for books that we publish, and encourage members to create fiction, nonfiction, and art. We maintain a respected research collection. Our YouTube channel adds productions regularly and is particularly helpful when we host virtual events. So if you're watching and your favorite Oz item is a book inscribed by L. Frank Baum, or a toy Kermit the Frog as the Scarecrow, the door to the Oz Club stands open and ready to make you feel at home. We're a place where generations meet and mix, and young people can get started publishing and speaking. Through the years, members have connected to forge wonderful, lifelong friendships. That, to me, is the most marvelous part of the most marvelous land of Oz.